Sir, you think you're pretty cool? Yeah. Oh, okay. We were going for cool, but you went with that. All right. You skateboard. That's awesome. All right. You cool? All right. Do you think you're cool, sir? You are not anywhere cool because you cannot be Vincent Falconi cool. Are you ready for this? First of all, Vincent is trying to challenge Chris on the tattoo front, but he stopped at like 35, right? How many? 35? 30. Time, okay. But here it is. You are only cool as this young man if you took your mama in for her first tattoo. You that cool? No. My boy said, Mama's like, baby, you that's a lot of tattoos you got on. And he said, Mama, we gonna go get you one. And she said, okay, baby, let me mama go get her robe. And Mama went to the tattoo place and she got a fire devil right here on her neck. That what she said. Yeah, you got a fire devil on her neck, right? And it said, I'm gonna live more than once. That's what it said right on the neck. I'm lying. She had a little flower on her foot. But he did take his mama in for her first and only tattoo. She said she didn't want to do any more. But that's pretty cool. Also, this dude does kayaking. Anybody kayak? Yeah. You do? Yeah. All right. You used to kayak? All right. Are you ready, my brother? All righty. Look up. Wait. Show him your first one. Show me your first one. There it is. That's number one that started it all. And you went with Mom. What was the name of the shop y'all went to?
Oh, at the time it was called the Ink Spot, but today it's called Electric Dagger up the street in Fondren.
So you took Mama to the Electric Dagger. Mm-hmm. That's what you did.
Pretty much.
Terrible son. All righty. Y'all make a whole lot of noise for Mr. Vincent Falconi, the tattooed mom dude.
If my mom knew that I was telling people about her tattoo, she doesn't even know I'm in this building right now, so that's fine. Hi, I'm Vincent. I'm not here to tell you about an exciting new technology or really any technology much at all, except for some work that I've done in the past few years. I am here instead to beg you to save the world by annoying your state and local governments. And you can do that. You can do that by using the web. I'm going to show you some examples of that. Don't worry, managers in the room. I will tie this back to business purposes. This is not just for me to have fun. There is business here. So I want you to be locally annoying. And the first thing that we have to do today to understand why being annoying to your state and local government is important is the definition of power. I am not a sociologist. I am a 3-time college dropout. But my definition of power is very simple. If you've ever worked with me, I don't like jargon. I don't like the big concepts that make people feel smarter than they really are, but they are very smart to begin with. Anyway, my simple definition of power is that if you have power, your decisions can alter another's life directly. Very simple. In this context for state and local government, I'm talking about the people in charge. The people working in the offices and doing the bureaucratic work. They are saints. They have patience that none of us have. They're not the problem. The problem is the people making decisions. So that's who we're going to make fun of today. I am suspicious of anyone who says that holding power is their calling. I am horrified by anyone who thinks that power is their birthright. I very much believe that power should be a burden and not a boon, and that burden should come in the form of accountability. I was radicalized into this idea in 2016 when the news broke that then Lieutenant Governor Tate Reeves, they made a bit of a calculation error in the budget. It was just 1% of the budget, state budget, but that 1% came to $56.8 million. Their response to that $56.8 million mistake is, staff error, we'll fix it by shoring up money from other budgets. So other budgets got cut because they didn't do their simple job. And there was no accountability on that. Tate Reeves is our governor now. So What do I want you to do about it? I want you to be annoying, right? I want you to do 3 things. I want you to never stop pushing politicians, period. Shove them, metaphorically, especially online, symbolically, if you will. Secondly, I want you to build what your community needs. And third, I want you to demand that things work because they can, and they should. So in other words, become annoying. I'm going to give you some examples now of ways that I have been annoying in the past to people in power. Hopefully, they've never heard of me. Don't know if that's true or not. First up, Tate Reeves. There isn't much I can say about this man to talk about being annoying because his work does it for him. The man's not very good. That's just my opinion. Again, not a scientist. However, I did build a bot that posts to Blue Sky reading open license leftist texts as Tate Reeves. It's hosted on tatereeves.lol because that's a domain that you could buy, and I did it. If you don't know, this is the opening text to the Communist Manifesto. It's great. And I am just really amused that there's somewhere in the world, meaning up the street in my house, a computer that every half hour outputs text on behalf of Tate Reeves, like this. There's no societal benefit other than that, and I think that's really important. Business. Yes, business. I did reuse a pattern from making that bot at my actual job. My job is a web operations manager at a company called Sumo Logic. Hi, coworkers. This has nothing to do with work. So there was a pattern in that bot that I didn't want to use a data store because it's a bot and I really don't want to invest a lot of time and energy into maintaining it. But that text itself was just a text file, and I thought, I could use that as the data store, but then how would I tell it to go to the next line? Oh, I can just cut all the text out, take out the first line, move things around, reuse that pattern to get around to get hack. So business managers, building bots help you figure out how to solve problems at work too, and annoy politicians. My favorite politician that we need to annoy is no longer an active politician because he ran out of terms. Phil Bryant, our former governor. My relationship to Phil Bryant goes back a long, long time, but we're going to start in 2015. He did something, I don't recall exactly what because that was 10 years ago, and I'm but a man. All I remember is that it made me so mad that I had to do this. In 2015, this was considered active trolling because it was the best we could do at the time. Unfortunately, that was just a sleight of hand. I didn't actually modify Wikipedia, so no one can say that I broke any rules. I didn't even modify Wikipedia in general until this year to correct a movie box office score, which I felt was really important. But instead, I used DevTools to change the images on the page, took a screenshot, posted it to social media because that was all you needed to do, and still all you need to do to make a joke. Not terribly effective. It's just a joke, right? Fun thing was finding out that it made its rounds around downtown Jackson, where the state government lives. That made it to the AG's office, which tells me that Phil Bryant may have seen it, may not have seen it. We don't know. But again, not terribly effective. A lot like the Tate Reeves bot, it's not doing anything. It creates something, puts it out into the world, but doesn't make any change or push anybody other than some buttons. I knew that I could do better. I just had to bide my time. Phil Bryant would later go on to create a jobs database for the state of Mississippi. It was called the NSPARC. That is an acronym that I never took the time to learn what it means. So for this group here today, NSPARC, that's all it is. It was a database of any open job in the state of Mississippi, anything ranging from Dollar General cashier to a staff position on a naval vessel on the coast. So you got a real good range of different possible job opportunities for Mississippi. But the weird thing was that the jobs just didn't make any sense why they were listed there. And most of the jobs were not very well paying, so it didn't make sense as to why it was such a boon for the state. That's when Mississippi Today started asking questions about what's in that database, and they requested that the state turn over an export of that database. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you whether it was SQL or Postgres or any of the other formats that I'm blanking on right now, because they never gave that export out. Instead, they came back and told Mississippi Today that for that database export, they would want $27,000 and need 2 months to hit dump on their SQL server. It was probably SQL, let's just assume it was SQL. 2 months and 30 grand to get a copy of a database. Mississippi Today did the right thing and published that that was their response, which made its way to Twitter. And if anyone in this room has ever spent a minute on Twitter with Jackson, Mississippi, you know that we are relentless. We make fun of everything. There is nothing sacred to us. I saw this headline and I knew that it was going to be a problem for me because I knew how to get that data. What I did was I reached out to Anna Wolf, the reporter at Mississippi Today covering that story, and volunteered that if she wanted the data from the database but didn't have 30 grand, I knew a guy. And unfortunately, I was that guy. Sometimes I know myself, sometimes I don't. So the thing about the database was that we weren't going to break any laws, right? We weren't going to get into there and take data out of the server because that would be unethical. Instead, using the ideas and the knowledge that I have of running websites, the content on the site is generally the content in the database. There's probably some stuff missing, some metadata, but for the most part, what Mississippi Today was interested in was the data on the page. So I sat down for a couple days and several Diet Cokes, and I wrote a 2-stage web scraper. Back in 2019, this was exciting times because web scraping wasn't a big deal, and now it's much easier today. We won't get into that. And I won't ever show you the code for the scraper because much like most of the things I'm talking about today, utter nightmare. Spaghetti code, things just hacked everywhere. It was independently reviewed, and that was mortifying. But what the scraper did was go to the page, pull the first page of job listings, copy the links for each one, click next using Puppeteer, click the next link, take the next 10 links, copy those, dump it into a database, or into a CSV, I think it was. Then on stage 2, it would take all those job links that it had scraped in stage 1 and pull the data out using CSS selectors and the DOM, and export that into a CSV that could then be shipped off to Mississippi Today. So that was really fun, especially when I found out that they validated the software because I was like, nobody should ever see this code. It was bad. But the output of it was an article where they looked at nearly 1 million data points, some of which were the product of the scraper, to find out that the jobs database was bunk. There just wasn't much to it. It wasn't a hugely exciting story about a jobs database because it's a database, but Anna Wolf is an amazing journalist, and if you don't follow her work, you should because she does exactly what I love, which is holding power accountable. She later did find more terrible spending from Phil Bryant in the state, and she's the reason for that Pulitzer Prize up there, and she's great. So, by the way, Phil Bryant does have me blocked on Twitter. I no longer have a Twitter account, but I was blocked by both Phil Bryant and Brett Favre, who still owes us money. Brett, run us our check. So some business lessons from this. How to use DevTools. If you've never used DevTools, poking fun of the government's always a good way to learn. Cloud infrastructure, because I did not know how to run a Node script while I wasn't at the desk at the time. So I had to figure out real quick how to run this thing in a cloud server because I didn't want it coming from my home IP. I had to learn how the cloud works, and now that's part of my job. So if you poke fun of the government, you can get a job. I'm not really sure the takeaway there, but we're going to go with that. I also learned task automation, Jenkins, things like that. Those tools are invaluable to me today. So thanks, Phil. Now, the wild part about the Phil Bryant issue, or the jobs database, that when that article came out, I was really self-conscious about it because I'm just some dude with a computer, right? And I did not know that they ever linked to an article that named me as their source because their original article, that article here, if you look, oh, that's the stop button. I don't know buttons. Okay, I don't have it. And if you go and look, and our methodology here was never hyperlinked in 2019, or was that 2020? at 2020. So over the past 5 years, I didn't know they published that I was involved. I found it by accident. So it's really important that your links work on your websites. Speaking of broken links, it's time to talk about Michael Watson. He is our current Secretary of State. In 2019, he was running for the office that he currently holds. 2019 was a different time in politics in Mississippi, mostly because politicians found that the .ms top-level domain exists. .ms is for multiple sclerosis causes, but people in Mississippi have taken it to be our unofficial state domain. The first person I saw do this was Robert Foster, a tree farmer from up north. He owns governor.ms when he was running for governor, which was a brilliant move. Michael Watson had michaelwatson.ms, and that was really cool too. I thought that was a great domain. The problem is, he didn't link to it on his Twitter. michaelwatsonms.com. That'd be fine. If you put the wrong URL on there, that's fine. If you also owned michaelwatsonms.com. He didn't. I bought it. So, for a couple of days in 2019, if you clicked the link in his Twitter profile, which he was actively campaigning on, and you would go to a website you thought was campaigning for him, instead, you'd get this. It took them days to find that out. Days. This is my pride and joy. I don't think I've told anybody in public about this before. So this is, this was a lot of fun because I couldn't believe that that had happened. But, and then, Michael, if you're watching, you can buy the domain now. I let it go in August. I stopped paying for it. If I still held it, I'd charge a hefty fee. But now, the thing about that broken link in his profile is that who could have ever known that that was actual foreshadowing for a much worse and much more specific broken link from Michael Watson. If you aren't from Mississippi, and if you are, maybe you just don't know about this, the state was and or is heavily obsessed with voter fraud. We pushed through laws in that same time period that required voter ID, right? Spoilers. I think that's unconstitutional, but I'm not a lawyer. Voter ID because we wanted to curb voter fraud. Now ignore the logical problem of if the people obsessed with voter fraud believe voter fraud is an epidemic requiring legal action, that means that they're only in office because of voter fraud themselves. That's immaterial. We don't care about that. We just know that we need to have voter ID. So when you go to register to vote, this is the application. And at the bottom of the instructions, it tells you if you need more information about photo ID because it's so important to us, vital. It is the only thing standing between us and chaos, this voter ID. If you need more information, you can call a number or you can go to this website. I love websites. We all love websites. It's a great thing that we have a website for voter ID because it's so vital. It'd be wonderful if it worked. If you click that link today, this is what you get. Not a redirect, just a broken URL on the voter form. Now true, that form is supposed to be printed out and delivered either by hand or by mail. You can't vote, or you can't register to vote online because that would be too easy for us. You can't automatically register to vote at the DMV because that would be too easy for us. Instead, we have a form with broken information on it. And that URL may not actually do anything for the person registering to vote, but when they click it and they see a broken URL or the link is not working, whole lot of trust in that system, right? It's an automatic discouragement to continue registering if the system you're trying to participate in doesn't work in a very literal sense. Now, why do I know that happened? Why do I know that that URL gives you that error message? It's because while prepping for this talk, I was following up, out of order, dang it. Okay, anyway, the voter form, there are two versions of it linked on the same page. More distrust in the system. I don't know which form I'm supposed to use. One's from 826 or 2016, one's from 1021. When you're talking about voter fraud, I would believe, again, not a lawyer nor a scientist, but I would believe that if you have multiple forms, which one's gonna get me disenfranchised for using it? If there are two versions of it, which one am I supposed to use when they're both linked in the same place? But form numbers matter. So why am I looking at this? I was looking at this because I was following up on an email I sent to the Secretary of State 2 years ago around this same time, because that same URL was broken, or the link was broken in the form rather, in a different way. In 2023, if you click the link, you would get my favorite warning from a browser that it's not secure, because the redirect from the PDF would take you to an HTTPS URL, which would then redirect you to an HTTP URL, which would then take you to another HTTPS down the line until you got to where you needed to go. The problem with that is that if you have an insecure link in that redirect, it's not allowed. The browser will shut it down. So even though the URL worked, there was a redirect chain in there that did the same problem of creating doubt and mistrust in the system. Now, to their credit, this was 2 years ago. I follow up on it 2 years later. I complained about a redirect chain problem, and they did fix it. They fixed the redirect chain by snapping it in half. So now the redirect doesn't matter. The business impact here, very simple. Just hyperactive QA skills. Click the links. Don't listen to security. Click the link and see if it takes you where you're supposed to go. That's a skill that we have to use all the time in running websites. Oh, also certificate management. All this could have been avoided if that certificate had just worked in the first place, and now God knows what's happening to it. So, why does any of this matter? I think about this in terms of friction, and when I think about friction, I think about my work, because running a website in B2B sales and marketing, you worry about friction with users. For all my coworkers, cover your ears. Do you know how difficult it is to get one field added to your product's free trial, or the main source of lead generation in your product? If you add friction, your product managers are going to freak out, because that is going to change the experience. Your CRO manager for your marketing website is going to have a panic attack because you want to add one single field. One single field is enough friction to jeopardize a marketing pipeline, right? But when you leave the business world and look at government function and public services, that friction is expected, almost demanded. So you encourage distrust and not use of public services when things are weird. And for me, the most important example of this right now is the Attorney General's website. There's a program called the Address Confidentiality Program. It's used by victims of interpersonal violence, that when they leave that dangerous relationship, they can get an address, it's a fake address that they can use for government purposes or any purposes, to receive mail at a secure location and have that forwarded on to their actual home address so that their stalkers or their attackers don't know where they live. It's a program all over the country. Mississippi has one, I think, because we used to have it on the Attorney General's website. When Jim Hood was our AG, and please, do not take me as a Jim Hood apologist, but Jim Hood's website had a link to victims' programs smack dab on the front page. The first link, maybe because of alphabetical order, maybe not. Who can say? It's probably alphabetical. But the first link is the Address Confidentiality Program. You click that and you go through and you find the information you need because you're in crisis. And shout out, this picture came from the Internet Archive. Was able to pull it up from there because they do God's work. So this was what we used to have. Here's what we have now. Victim services aren't anywhere on the front page. And this is pure irony that it's Domestic Violence Month. To find the Address Confidentiality Program now, you have to click Media, and then you have to click Community Resources, and then a third link to open a dialog to show you a PDF link. That PDF link for information on the ACP, that PDF then tells you to go to the website for more information, or to call a number. Again, calling a number is fine, and I'm sure that does something. But when people are in crisis, they don't need a conversation, they need the services that they're due. And when people are looking for justice, they don't want to talk to somebody or fill out another form or explain why they deserve that justice. They just want the damn services. Interestingly enough, If you click that link, that read more link that shouldn't be there because read more is an accessibility nightmare, that link takes you to an index of non-governmental organizations that can help you if you are in a domestic violence situation. It's no longer the AG's job. The AG's website now functions as a campaign mechanism for Lynn Fitch instead of providing services for constituents. And to be clear, Mississippi divorce laws still suck, in case anybody wondered. If anybody wants to do something about that, please. So, to recap, I want you to never stop mocking power, because that's what it deserves. I want you to build what your community needs, things like scrapers, find data. I want you to demand things work because they can and they should work. And to borrow from Michael, I want you to do all that, and I want you to blog about it. Because if you don't tell people that you did it, if you don't tell people that you found it, did you? Did anybody? So, save the world, be super annoying. I love y'all.